Welcome to another episode of Behind the Pixel. I'm your host, Joe. I'm not unaware of my personality and how it affects people. I'm sure people meet me, see me as an obnoxious, combative, opinionated attention whore. I know I'm exhausting. So when I meet someone like me, like my next guest, it's absolute chaos. That's this entire episode. Chaos. I've been dreading editing it for months. It's been sitting on my computer, just waiting. At the end of this recording, my guest even said, "Good luck editing this." I may act annoyed at them. I may say publicly they drive me nuts. But I honestly love them. Because to hate them would be to hate a part of myself. I know there are people out there who hate me because of how I act. And they don't expect me to have the beliefs that I do when they get to know me. But Haley and I have a lot in common. One note of correction. I knew this artist by another name when we first met and recorded this episode. You may hear me refer to them as such. They have asked me to make sure that anyone who listens know that they go by Haley now.
I don't mansplain me what Woka is.
Oh, is this what mansplaining is?
Yeah.
You never know, like, who knows what, you know? Like, I've only been doing this for, like, 2 months, and it's, like, sometimes I'm saying something, and then the person's like, oh, I don't know who that is. And it's, like, women in the group also don't know, like, everyone involved, so it's, like, oh, shit, like, I just assumed everyone knew everybody. But it's bigger than I thought, but also it's still, like, fucking small, you know? Like, do you know everyone in that NFT hype group? Because I think that's how I found you.
Why'd you leave? Or what happened there?
I don't know. I feel like kind of like intrusive, like being in some groups, you know? Like, I'm not an artist. I'm not a part of it. It feels voyeuristic, you know?
But Joe, like, the whole point of what you're doing and the work that you're undertaking is to engage and build up new artists, and that group's full of lovely ones who could really do with the outreach that the work that you're doing could provide. I'm gonna re-invite you to the fucking group, and you're gonna join it.
I'm not,
about that.
But that's the thing is, like, I'm not active, and I'm not active in the Woka group at all. Like, that feels like your group didn't feel as intrusive, but, like, I feel like I should not be in Woka because it's supposed to be a safe space for women to be able to discuss things and sell their art and such, and that's something I need to respect. And it was around the same.
That's why they have the ally badge, though.
Yeah, that's true. You are.
Sorry, Joe. And I don't want to rant on about you and your choices.
So since when did this this podcast episode sounds like it's going to be just you putting me down for a half hour, 45 minutes, and then us not talking about anything art related whatsoever? Is that how this is going to go?
Did this podcast start?
I'm recording it. I don't know what's going to be in it yet. I don't give a shit.
I didn't think we'd started yet.
Oh, Ben,
I genuinely had no idea.
Ben, I don't care.
Should we take this a bit more seriously?
No. I like the conversational tone more than anything. So, like, honestly, I don't care. And your personality, like, fits mine in the sense that you're already very comfortable in picking on me, as my wife is, as my friends are. And then I get very defensive and pretend to be offended by it. So it's a dynamic that I think works very well.
You look like Nick Offerman if he never found his way into like a woodworking shop ever in his life.
That, I think, is an accurate way to describe me, as my somewhat masculine appearance is very misleading. Here is a question, though, that I think does apply to you. Um, when I was interviewing one of the founders of Woka, she was talking about how it was initially started for women to share their art, help each other sell their art, because it's always easier for someone else to promote someone else other than themselves, you know? And they got some pushback saying, well, what about non-binary people? Why are they not allowed in the group? And she said, well, no, they are. As long as you are here for the right purposes, you're welcome in the group. Now, that kind of goes into how you and I connected, because you said one of the most mature things that I think I have ever heard on gender for someone of your age. Do you want to talk about that at all? Or,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, let me just go straight away that I would consider myself a gender expansionist. I think that the way that we have reduced gender down into being like a male and female binary is just ridiculous to the first place. So a big reason about of why I identify the way that I do is that I find it's ridiculous and frankly disgusting to take what is the human experience and then try and fit it into two boxes. Like trying to like shove something through like a Play-Doh spaghetti machine like factory, where it's like, okay, you can have the square shape, you can have the circle shape, you can have the triangle shape. Those are your shapes, you know. And I think it's our job, especially my generation, to figure out how painting outside the lines can improve the human experience and also break down the pain and suffering and misogyny and misandry that has been caused through the reduction of gender.
I agree with everything you said, first of all. But how does that play into your decision to not identify one way or the other? But you prefer the gender terms them and they.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so like pronouns. Let's talk about pronouns because I think this is maybe the first time. Sorry, not the first time. Like it's the first part of somebody's gender that you kind of like have to experience and understand. Because if you want to refer to someone, you're going to use pronouns because that's what pronouns are for. And what has kind of happened in our Republican media, our conservative saying, oh, look at all these pronouns, how dare they use them, is that they fail to realize how much they're just an intrinsic part of our language. And the truth of it is that me identifying non-binary and preferring they them pronouns is really just about working in that current like language group to find something that suits me the best. You could use he him, you could use she her actually if you wanted to, because to me a pronoun's a pronoun. But the fact is, if I use they them, I'm making a conscious effort to signal to others about my beliefs and my political views on the matter of gender as well. So that's why I tell people use they them, because if you learn to look at somebody who was born a man and looks fairly masculine in appearance, and you know how to use they them for me, you're going to find it a lot easier for a lot of other people who that's going to make an even bigger difference towards.
I think you inspired me to use those pronouns as well, because that I think is more the point than anything else. It's that how do you describe how you feel as a gender? When people who just never question it, never look into themselves as to how they feel on the matter, like, do I feel like a man? Do I feel like a woman? They just never take the time to think of what that actually feels like. So they just go with their given pronouns. But if you take the time to analyze it, you'll find that it's nearly impossible to articulate what it feels like to be masculine or feminine. And I do like that idea of it being more of a political statement, but also like a belief system where you can be comfortable with me because these are my pronouns. It doesn't mean I feel one way or the other. It's just I want you to feel comfortable with me. I like that sentiment a lot.
I do want to say that I do prefer they them, because if you like, this is what I tell everybody who is experiencing gender identity issues or maybe wants to understand that more, is to try out different names and sentences. So for example, if you say, oh, this is Ben Haley, he likes making art, to me the he seems a bit out of place in that sentence, you know. And it's the same thing with his. Is like, if you say, oh, that's his, I prefer it's theirs pretty much for everyone. So even if somebody does identify he, him, or she, her, I always say it's theirs in a sentence, because that to me, the word there just fits better than his or hers, you know? And I think it's just like, what I want to make expressly clear is, if somebody has an explicit preference between he and him, or she and her, and you consistently use they and theirs, that's the same as misgendering that person. It's a matter of understanding their experience and using words in a way that, you know, can make them feel most welcome and comfortable in the community and space that, you know, like, because nobody chooses to be a part of society, but society includes you, you know. And at the end of the day, we're all floating in a rock through outer space, and it takes literally no time to learn pronouns. And even if you get it wrong, like, tell you what, I hate it when people get pronouns and go, like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like, because it's like saying the wrong word, I think, isn't an offensive thing as long as it's not an offensive word. For example, like, if you don't know what the word for a horse is, or if you don't know what the word for a pony is, and you say, oh, look at that small horse, you know, that's just like, oh, thank you for correcting me. Yeah, that's a pony, you know?
Yeah, but it is a sensitive subject, and I think that is our intrinsic reaction to when we accidentally potentially offend someone. Because, you know, if I did that, I don't know if I would be apologetic, because I am a lot like you, where I just kind of accept that I'm going to be wrong. Well, maybe you don't accept that you're going to be wrong. You're right all the time, as it was what I've gathered. But I've accepted the fact that, like, I'm going to fuck up a lot. So, you know, if someone corrects me, I'll just be like, oh, okay. And that could be my background. That could be that, you know, my family was chaotic growing up. So I've learned to, a lot of stuff doesn't faze me anymore, you know? But that's still in society, is we still want to be somewhat respectful to other people. So
I think what we're trying to get at here, and I'll interrupt you here because otherwise you'll blather on this for ages, and I want to order an Indian takeaway soon. So, what I think you're getting at is that you shouldn't have to say sorry. You should say thank you. Thank you for correcting me. Saying sorry implies guilt. It implies misgivings, and you should say sorry. Let's say, for example, if you've crashed into someone's car, because that's a huge fuck up. But when it comes to language, and especially language with words, the best thing you can do is learn to degender your language and then use that pushing forward. I never say, hey guys. I never say, sup dudes. I never say, you know, like I've worked towards removing those words from my language. And that, to me, if you're at they as the constant, nobody's gonna bat an eyelid if they're like, if you have like a white man who usually like takes Tinder profiles holding a fish like this, and his name's Dale, he's not gonna bat a fucking eye if you call him a they. You say, oh, that's Dale, they like fishing. They don't care about that, you know. Dale's like, ugh, you know. In fact, I love men like that, because they always like you'll go to a party with them and they'll like have like somehow their entire hand, I don't know how they hold it because I've tried, and they'll hold a can of beer in their hand and it will just be encompassed by it, like they're holding a field mouse or something.
Ben. When did all of this start for you, and how does it like play a role in your creative stuff, or does it even? Do you even think that way? You are obviously very about it. You are very outspoken about it, which is a good thing. Um, like, does this is it part of your art, or is it your art kind of causing you to explore things that kind of led you down this path? Like, is it the chicken or the egg, essentially?
Let me start from the very beginning,
Oh, good.
where
I was born 2001, April 9th.
I was born 1998. So
Oh God.
I'm 3, would you believe? Gosh, with this face, you'd think I'd be straight out the oven now. Okay, so I come from a business background. I thought all through my early years I wanted to get into business and work as a businessman all my life. And what I found was that as I started to meet people who fell more in line and made me feel more comfortable, that helped me to guide what I actually wanted to do out of my life and my existence. And this led to an insane amount of crazy job hopping, where since going to university at 18, which I dropped out when I was 20, during that time, I was slowly meeting and integrating with different members of the LGBTQ community. And, I come from a pretty, suburban white UK background. So once you start meeting people from every single different country of the world, you start like having friends from Cameroon all of a sudden, you know, that experience is like such like it widens your horizon so much. And after that happened, it kind of guided me towards finding art and doing art in a way that made sense to me at that time. So I ended up getting into doing drag when I was 19. And yeah, no, this is what a lot of people don't know about me, is that, I've been on national TV in the UK in drag. I've had this illustrious, trotting up and down the UK career. And this is something which I've deliberately kept hidden from the wider art community, because I'm not going back to that point. Because when I was doing that, I was doing gender as a performance, you see? And now I'm doing art where my gender isn't at the forefront. It's just part of my identity as the artist who has made that work. So when you say, sure, like, how much does my gender play a role? It plays a huge role. And you can see it in how I do characters and how I make the characters who make it into my work. You have people who, especially in the Mouthpieces series, which has been going swimmingly, may I say, thank you to Rudy Adler for the 2-week sale, it's literally you when you develop characters and you are implicitly a minority in society, whether you're LGBTQ or you are Black or Asian or another minority ethnic group, you find a way to spread the voice of not only yourself and others, and either that's through your work or it's through constantly like doing your best to help people find a new place and just being active and supporting them. And okay, so shout outs quickly. Kate the Cursed, who has done tremendous work for the trans and non-binary community.
Yes.
I want to shout out Angie Taylor, who is maybe the big. I was about to call Angie the biggest lesbian in crypto art, and I've decided that I am gonna stick with that, because her growing up as a lesbian in a different community, and due to the AIDS epidemic, a lot of people from that time period just simply no longer exist. Thanks, Ronald Reagan.
Also, George Bush, the first one. So they both played a role in it. But, that's before your time, because, you were born in fucking 1998 and I was born in 1984. So there's a.
I mean, look, yeah, we can talk politics all we want, but we can thank Ronald Reagan for doing one thing for everyone, which is opening the world's first gender-neutral bathroom.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's his grave.
Oh. That's good. Your art also, this was something else that caused us to interact. You kind of put riddles in your work, if that's what you want to call it. And
Riddles is the wrong word. The word that you're looking for maybe is an Easter egg slash alternate augmented reality game. You know, is when I make stuff, is the whole goal of it is not just to make the art, but to make the underlying experience. And I do this in two ways, and I try not to upset the two parties, which is this, because some people love art, which they can look to and find their own conclusions in. And that is a really powerful part of the art viewer experience, and I would never want to rag on that. But what I think is,
but here I go.
yeah, what I think is really important is that people who do art take note here. Is there are people who absolutely love to dive into a good mystery, and people like Agatha Christie, they knew this, they knew what they were doing all the way through that. That's why they love the whole experience of building out the universe. Like, think about Poirot, think about Jessica Fletcher in Cabot Cove, Murder, She Wrote, there we go. They all built a surrounding narrative where you get to understand and know the characters. And with the Mouthpieces universe, is every single detail is really carefully placed. So, for example, how arms move, and like these are things that you can actually look at the models for the Hilbert's Hotel collection, which is still all up and available. You can go buy it now. Is you can find like every single thing that every character does, you can find how that intersects with the universe and learn about the universe that way. There are huge, insane things that nobody has spotted yet, and I'm not going to spoil, but the moment that happens, people are going to like, it's going to be like there's going to be like an investigation. There's going to be a big picture of me on the middle of the board. There's going to be red string everywhere with all the different pieces of art trying to connect the dots.
So you are attempting to cause a existential crisis in your art viewers to the point where they shut down and only explore your art. They stop showering, they stop shaving, they start to look like me, and just they spend all their time trying to figure out your mystery like it's an episode of Lost, and that's your goal. And you're totally okay with that.
Well, it's more that I just want somebody to finally believe in the flat Haley theory.
What's that?
It's a joke because it's like the flat Earth, but flat Haley. I'm two-dimensional.
You are more than two-dimensional, Ben. You are, again, and this is speaks more to us. You remind me of me before kids. Like, I used to be very witty, very charming, and a bigger smartass, and now you are dancing circles around me, and it's embarrassing me that I can't keep up sometimes.
Okay, but I do want to talk about this because the whole point of the human experience is that we get to pick and choose paths, and we develop based on the group and people that we bring ourselves around. And having kids is one of the most wonderful experiences in the world, right? One that so many people choose.
I'm going to push back on that. There are downsides to having children. So,
well, can you let me get through this? Because like I can go on about the downsides all day. I mean, so two people had to raise me. Can you believe that? Imagine having a child and this happens. God,
it's exhausting. I imagine it's probably what I'm going through now. I'm raising a little version of me. I'm exhausting to be around, and now she's doing it back to me. So I imagine your parents, if they're still alive, they nap. Do they nap? Do they nap all day? Do they nap all day? Are they relieved that you're out of the house?
Oh, I'm currently in their house right now. Like this is my childhood bedroom. I'm fairly sure my dad can hear everything which I'm saying. Yeah. No, okay. So I lost my house in June 2020. I just couldn't afford the rent. I'd had lost my job in March 2020 with the COVID, and then I had long COVID myself. Just couldn't look after myself. It was horrible. So I had to come back home. And then I found out about this whole NFT shindig through Nifty Pride. Thanks, Bruce the Goose. This is all your fault. Uh, it's odd. I must say, I really enjoy that. Uh, you called me an activist before, but I think the correct word is terrorist.
Yes, yes, it is. You're a gay pride terrorist and LGBTQ terrorist, uh, inflicting your beliefs and um, feelings on everyone else,
Can
forcing.
I just can I tangent? I feel like I want a tangent.
What do you mean, as opposed to what you've been doing already? What do you mean?
Okay, true. Right. So I identify as gay and non-binary. I want to explain what that means to everyone who could be listening into this. You know who you are, because there's some people who think, "Oh, this person's non-binary. How can they be gay?" Because to be non-binary is to not, be a man or a woman, but to be gay is to like men, and like that doesn't make sense. Hang on, what's going on here? And that's a mindfuck for everyone. And I want to say, actually, what that means to me is that no matter who I love, I would love them in a gay way. So there is that. And I think we have gotten ourselves too wound up trying to stick people into specific boxes when in fact you can just put as many terms together as you want to explain your experience and then just, the consequences are for someone else to deal with.
That is true, but the categories we do put people in also help in protecting people as well. Like, there's been enough prejudice, enough hate crimes out there that we have to come up with terms to group these people to say, hey, this is what you need to look out for. This is what we need to be protective of. This is something that is unique and valuable to this individual, to other people like them. I spoke with Cryptonatrix 2-3 weeks ago, and I told her, I don't like the term sex worker because it still feels very prudish, and it feels like we are adapting to that conservative mindset where we're still not talking about sex and we are trying to, you know, sugarcoat what it is that is happening. And the converse side of that is that it's supposed to be normalizing what it is they do. So I agree with you that it is a human experience, that, we can't get hung up on these categories. And I would make the argument that people in the LGBTQ community and allies like myself don't get hung up on that stuff because there is a relationship, because we are communicating to each other what our feelings are, how we think and see the world. The problem is outsiders. And that's where I think the value is in these terms and these categories, because they haven't been respectful in the past. And maybe you disagree and will tell me, I'm sure, why I'm
I
wrong.
have. But so here's the thing: is that in the short term, yes, you're completely correct. Long term, literally every single word, phrase, thing that we're dealing with now has come through the disenfranchisement of those communities. So, for example, people nowadays, and by people I say the white Americans, say, "Oh yeah, they are Native American," as opposed to Indian. But if you go to literally any Native American community in the wider United States, they now use the word Indian because that was the word that was prescribed to them back then. And that was way more unifying than to use the terms like Cherokee and other groups. I can't name many. I'm from Britain.
Can you talk about the NFT hype group a little bit? Remind me how it got started and what it's like being in there. Like,
Am I even So here's the thing. Like, here's the thing. It's sort of like a secret society. It's like, because it's so extremely invite only, even discussing it might cause people to want to join, in which case don't ask me for it. I don't have privilege there of doing that. You have to talk specifically with CryptoPom if you think that community is going to be useful for you. But what I will signpost you to is the two communities which I'm heavily involved in, which is the trans and non-binary Discord, which if you are trans and or non-binary and you would like to come join that group, then I will more than happily invite you. And also, if you're a craft artist looking to get into crypto art and you think, oh god, everybody's making cool 3D stuff and I like to knit, what do I do? Just come talk to me. We have support, we have funding. Like, I will actually give you money to help you mint stuff.
How do you handle things like that? Like physical pieces of art, like craft art, in the real world and then minting it as an NFT. What's that process like? Because I don't know that a lot of people are really doing that.
There are, but people just don't take it seriously as much as, because like most people don't do it like via Super Rare or anything. It's very much we're relying on tools like OpenSea to mint and publish art like that. We're relying on Rarible. And basically, how it works is, you have an NFT, yeah? So you have your NFT. You use that as your art certificate for the physical. So it's not so much NFT plus physical, it's that you have the physical and you have the NFT. The NFT proves the physical is legitimate, but the NFT is also its own work.
Right. It's the certificate of authenticity.
So if you print off a certificate with the physical, you just put the NFT, you put the transaction which minted the NFT on the bottom of that certificate, inexplicably linked forever. I have art of mine currently sitting in a house in Seattle, which is cool, and I've got to send art all across America, which I just haven't done yet. So I'm about to destroy the local post office when I come in with a metric fuckload of boxes that need sending off.
Is that a technical term, a metric fuckload?
Yeah. Okay. So this is the thing, right? Is you have NFTs, and people have taken advantage of the fact that this is like a transient digital thing that doesn't have size nor mass. So when you in fact, watch this. So this is my box of boxes. It's full of boxes. It's the easiest way to get ones that fit the thingy. So this is a box, right? If I fold it out, pop the sides in. Yeah, this podcast has props. Yeah, so there's like a box size that I'd send off to America.
Ben, I just want to remind you that this is an audio podcast and that you are displaying a cardboard box like we're on a QVC channel.
This cardboard box can hold many things, none of which you can see.
As if, one, I've never seen a cardboard box before. Two, I don't know how to put a cardboard box together. And three, as if anyone listening can see exactly what you're doing. This is so problematic. and yet you are still holding it up for me to see, to make sure I understand the concept of a cardboard box.
But you need to know the size of the cardboard box. It's about the size of a duck. If a duck was a cuboid and the cuboid was completely full in the dimensions of a duck.
Okay, so why don't you just say it's the size of a rock that is the same size as this box? What you just said has the same exact meaning. This box is the same size as a duck if the duck were shaped like a cardboard box that was this size. That's what you just said.
But it is.
You're right, it is. It is that shape and size of that duck.
So here's a box. I'm still holding the box up. Imagine me carrying something like 6 of these at once, taking them to the post office, and the post office lady's face as she has to scan all 6 of these boxes, because that's what I have to do frequently as a craft artist. I'm just going to disassemble the box so you know how to do that as well. So you just push it down to the side, and then you can put that back into the box of boxes, which is a box full of boxes.
I'm gonna mint this as an NFT and sell it to the card boxing union in here in the States. They can use it as a tutorial for new hires on how to open a cardboard box and dismantle one.
These
So
boxes are
this will be
from
useful.
these boxes are from Ideal's UK Packaging, and they are the maximum size you can send to the post office in the UK if you want sent to America fairly cheaply.
Ben, Ben, I don't think I'm getting anything useful for the podcast. Oh my god, man.
Not a man.
Yeah. I use, okay, back to that where you say you don't use man or dudes and stuff. I use that as a colloquial terminology for I've been the minority as a white male at an office where that was predominantly women. And because of my upbringing, it's hard to break that habit of just saying, "Hey, you guys." And eventually I realized like it's just a colloquial term, but you don't see it that way.
So okay, but here's the thing though. Fair enough, something's just a term, but it's the same way that you okay, so I am saying this with the express permission of Ariel Becker, which is he is a lovely, amazing Argentinian artist. He told me to use this example. So a famous footballer said the word. In fact, no, I'm not going to say it because it's going to make me sound racist.
Don't. Yeah.
Skipping
don't.
that. But anyway, just because something's colloquial doesn't mean that it's not going to be misunderstood by various people. And the fact that we use male as default, that's not an okay thing, because that's reinforcing the idea that to be a man is to be the normal and to be a woman is to be other, you know? And it's just as simple as like, you're likely to continue to say that because it's a hard habit to break, and I respect that. But likewise, it makes sense for somebody who is passionate about this to correct it as much as they can, you know, and that's what I'm here to do. It's a bit like Janet from The Good Place just going, you know, not a girl, not a robot, not a girl, not a robot, if you've seen that show.
I think you're right, and I agree with you. And I think this is the dynamic that is missing a lot in these conversations, because I've said this to one of my close black friends. He has trouble bringing up issues about race to, you know, if he's dating a white girl, he doesn't want to come off as the angry black guy. And I said, you know, maybe going forward, allies like myself should be the ones that are angry on your behalf. You should be the one that should be forgiving. And you should be the one that is willing to invite people to have that conversation now, rather than you being the angry black person and turning people off from having a conversation. It's more up to allies like myself to push the issue of race onto other people, push the issue of sexuality and gender onto people. So maybe you're right. Maybe I do need to work harder to break that habit.
Let me just say something, though, that 2021 is the year that we stop making black people do free labor. We, as white people who've been stuck in this period where we've relied on black people, especially African Americans, to tell us what is going wrong and what we have done wrong, when in fact, all of that information is so freely available. And you've got people like, what is her name? Angela Jones? Oh my God, I'm being such a bad ally right now, but yeah, Angela Davis. Yeah. So Angela Davis has all these books like Women, Race and Class, Freedom is a Constant Struggle. Those books are right there, and they're pretty much in every United States library. All I'm saying is instead of, I know literature isn't, you know, particularly accessible, especially if you have any learning-based accessibility issues. But if you look into things like leftist TikTok, that was incredible for me to understand issues like intersectionality. And if you're struggling with issues about learning about race, gender, sexuality, start a TikTok and start seeking out creators who are not like you, and see how quickly you can learn the information that is pretty much inaccessible. Have you ever read anything by Karl Marx, Joe?
Uh, yes, bits and pieces. I have trouble reading old authors, and this is coming from an English teacher who studied all that stuff. We don't study enough modern authors, in my opinion. So my go-to is David Simon, who wrote and directed The Wire, which was a show on HBO, and he quotes and uses Marx in modern day examples all the time. So that's a guy that I look to for things like that. But go ahead with your Karl Marx.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah, exactly. It's a fucking slog, and I don't recommend it to anyone. I don't tell anyone to read Marx. I tell people to grab either an audiobook of your favorite black writer or activist, and then you could also, in fact, I can't remember the name of the book, but there's one about how black people are treated in the medical system in America and how poorly that is, and it's killing me that I don't remember the name of the book, but it was one of the coolest books I've ever written. And what's really upsetting me is I can't remember the name of the author, but I can recommend the name of the white man who recommended me read the book, which is Mike Rugnetta.
Helpful. Here's this guy that had nothing to do with the book. Yeah. I know what book you're talking about.
It was recommended on yeah, but you can't name it either, nor can you name the author.
No, I can't. I can recommend other black authors though. So yeah. I'm a step ahead right now.
Let's start there.
Do you want to talk about your mouthpieces artwork at all? Do you want to talk about anything you're working on? What do you want to talk about? I've got like 10, 15 minutes left. What do you want to do?
I want to talk about what it means to be an artist like myself, and why using polymer clay in the way that I do is a freeing way to fight back against capitalism. Okay, so I use polymer clay. You know what that is?
Hold on. I want to digest the statement you just made, where you said, I want to talk about what it's like to be an artist like myself using polymer clay to fight capitalism.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Polymer clay. People use it to make jewelry. People use it to sell the jewelry that they make on websites like Etsy. When people think of polymer clay, they think of dinky little crafts that are made to be sold for small prices, not really supporting the artist's labor. I say no, ridiculous, frankly, disgusting. And there are so many rules about how polymer clay is made. Like, oh, you're supposed to make sure it's get clean. You're supposed to use all these different colors of polymer clay, yada, yada, yada. That's the best way to do things. And in my own experience, the way that I make stuff is that I'm very inaccurate deliberately. I don't measure a single thing that I make. I never have, and I've been on trouble on national TV for not doing so. I literally just do not fathom the idea of a ruler. Don't show me one, I'll die. What I think is better is to reclaim the material and use it how you see fit. And for me, taking it into being a virtual reality experience and animating it using virtual reality, even if it's a baked piece and not just doing stop motion, it's like I've kind of like reclaimed the material as like a material that can be used for everything. And that's like, oh, that's so powerful. And now I'm not having to go through the route of Etsy and making my work palatable for people. I make weird characters in weird places. I do things that you don't make art about, like mathematical theories about an infinite hotel. And, you know, and that to me is the most powerful thing you can do with the materials that you have. So just if you have been stuck using a pen like a pen and paint like paint, find out what that means and why you've been doing that, and find a new way to use the materials around you as something else, because abstracting on what I am using and creating things through this abstract way in a way that is easy to understand for others has been mind-blowing for me, and it's made me so happy.
Have you ever heard of Trent Shy? He's a he's a claymation artist on YouTube. And I only bring it up because he's the only one that I really know, but he seems to be fairly popular because he's got, 500,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. And it's all this weird claymation depicting this sometimes violent stuff. But seeing it and growing up with claymation, because you weren't of that era in the 80s and 90s when it was a big thing, but knowing that it takes that much time and effort to build that, you're right, it shouldn't be cheap. It takes so much precision, so much planning, so much effort that I would have paid double what I paid for one of his clips, because it probably took him close to a month to make it. Like, it's insane.
For example, do you know Jen? Jen's a little loopy. They do the fiber art Huggerman monsters. So Jen is the only fiber artist in crypto art that I know of. And fiber artists are usually women. They usually don't get the respect. They don't get into art galleries. They don't get any sort of reasonable, say in the world of art. And crypto art is changing that, So when I talk about, fighting and just doing things how you want to do it because this is the time to do it, that's what I mean. Where so for example, Trent Shy, yeah, I would go as far as to say that he would be as successful without crypto art as he has been. Like, he would have found another way out into being an artist in that world, yeah? I think
I would push back there only because of what you just said, where we have not just devalued certain art projects, we've devalued almost all art, especially digital art. And there are all these withering art forms like clay work that should have a new life in crypto art. So he's gained some success already. I mean, he's got 500,000 subscribers, but he told me that his income is still in flux and it's not consistent. So yes, he's doing better than most people, but I think we have just devalued a lot of art forms.
No, you're right. You're right.
So, but
and it's not me saying that trends art shouldn't have value. But what I was trying to get at is that things like YouTube and those movements like Patreon are already, they have helped artists like claymation workers more than artists like fiber artists have. And the reason why is that fiber art is pretty much unaccessible as a thing you can put online. Like, if you think about the amount of work that goes into okay, fiber
explain
art
what a fiber
with
artist
any type
is.
of fiber, so that's yarns, that is clothing, for example. So it's mainly when I talk about fiber art, I'm thinking about people who do knitting, people who do crochet, and use those sorts of skills.
Do you know any artists that still use looms to make long form, like, I mean, is that just gone at this point, though?
I know artists that do that, but they should be in crypto art. I would love it if they joined.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, and I think we're both saying that, like, this could be the revival of dead art forms, and we can now reevaluate that stuff.
Yeah, I do want to say that no art form will ever truly be dead to human society, because there's always going to be some wacky motherfucker showing back up and finding the old tablets and being like, oh my god, I want to try this. And okay, and the reason why I say that is because we know a lot about how we have cooked and cooking throughout the ages simply due to bored people writing it down in diaries. And to me, that gives me the glimmer of hope that no thing will truly be lost to humanity forever. We might lose it for a while, but I never think it will truly be dead.
That's one of the most optimistic things I think I've heard you say.
What? I'm always optimistic. I'm like, no, I truly believe that everybody who's in crypto art right now will make it in the end, and everyone's going to be successful. Because the difference between like what we're doing now in comparison to the traditional gallery space is that the amount of money moving hands and the way that we like artists have become not only artists but artist collectors has been massive. It has been incredible. Absolutely, chef's kiss. And to me, if we continue to expand, I don't see that going away because it's not in human nature to abandon that. So I cannot be anything else but optimistic.
I hope you're right. I guess my last question will be, things have sort of cooled off since February when a lot of this was getting attention. And I've seen articles and I've seen, data to show that like people aren't spending as much money right now. Have you experienced that? Do you know other people that are experiencing kind of a letdown right now?
Okay, right. It's not that people are spending less money. It's the fact that more artists have entered the fray, and the more artists that enter the space is the more money that gets lost to base survival needs. Yeah. So when there's less artists in the space, it's easier for everyone to have their needs met, and therefore more people spending money on the secondary art space. The less people who have their needs met, the harder it is for people to engage into the collector's market as much as I would love them to. And I don't think that's a bad thing. But what we need, like what's happening now with things cooling off, that's going to mean people are either going to leave or stagnate in crypto art, and that money's going to build again, and then we're going to have the same wave as we always will. And right now we're in what I call the chasm, where everything's slowed down and people are thinking, oh, this NFT stuff is just bullshit and we shouldn't even talk about it, It's just a waste of everyone's time. And that to me is the most bullish thing about NFTs as art that I have ever heard. Because right now, all the people who are here are working so hard to maintain being here and to engage in the community. So everybody who sticks it out is going to be successful in the end. You have my word on it, actually. It's my promise, 100%. If you stick it out for long enough in this space, you will make it.
I'd like to thank my guests for taking the time to speak with me. And if you liked what you heard, like, subscribe, and share it. Thanks for listening.